Welcome back, everyone. Let's go ahead and do a comparison. In 2021, compare the iPhone 10 versus the iPhone SE 2 and which one you should pick up. Now, either one of these phones are great. I will tell you there's pros and cons for both, but if you want to pick up either one of these, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, as always, you can see that the iPhone 10 is pretty much the bigger phone in every dimension. It has the bigger screen. You have the notch on the iPhone 10. The iPhone SE 2 has a 4.7-inch panel, and I think it's an okay panel for sure. It's definitely nothing super to be, bragging about. It's a true tone display. I will tell you though, the phone itself feels very premium. It doesn't feel cheap. Even though it looks a bit dated, it really doesn't feel too dated, to be honest. Touch ID 2 at the front, which is still pretty relevant considering we're all wearing masks and stuff like that. True tone display, like I mentioned, front facing camera, and it's nothing really like crazy, but it gets the job done for the most part. The iPhone 10 though, the way it looks, I think is its strongest asset. I think everything else about the iPhone SE 2 is pretty much better, but the iPhone 10's display is its strongest asset. When you look at a phone like this, and you look at a phone like an iPhone 12 or something like that, or an iPhone 11, there's really not that much difference. And based on what the iPhone 13 is going to be looking like, it's going to be even less different. So it's pretty much all going to be looking the same. The notch isn't really that big of a deal to me. I like the way the iPhone 10 looks with its OLED display over the IPS panel on the iPhone SE 2. But regardless, I think the iPhone 10 still looks better no matter which way you look at it. Thinness and thickness, I think the iPhone SE 2 is the thinner phone for sure. This one definitely looks thinner. On the back, glass backs on both, and a single camera setup on the SE 2. iPhone 10 has a dual camera setup. I will tell you though, the white on the iPhone SE 2 looks way more white than the, white version of the iPhone 10. That's definitely like night and day difference. Lightning ports at the bottom, no headphone jacks or anything like that. In terms of the outside, that really pretty much covers it up. Now, there is a pretty big difference between both of these devices, which is very important to note: the chipsets inside of them. So you are getting a newer chipset on the iPhone SE 2, so that theoretically means that the iPhone 10's lifespan in terms of software may not last as long as the iPhone SE 2. I still think the iPhone 10 is going to be lasting for quite a bit of time, but the SE 2 may actually outlast it. So that is a somewhat major thing to keep in mind, but regardless, I think the iPhone 10 is still going to be lasting for a long time. So that's one of the bigger differences, I would say. But there's an even bigger difference than that, and it's probably the battery life. The iPhone SE 2's battery life is probably one of my least favorite things about this phone. I think it's okay for the price tag that it is brand new, but for all other purposes, it's really not that great of a battery life. And from last year, this was my major downside of the iPhone SE 2. And this is where the iPhone 10 is a little bit better, and this battery life isn't even like amazing, but it's definitely better than the iPhone SE 2. If you're wanting to pick up a phone that has the better battery life, the iPhone 10 is the better way to go. It's going to be getting you better battery life. The big thing to keep in mind though is that if you end up getting an iPhone 10 that's used and the battery's degraded a lot, you're not going to be getting as good battery life, but it's still probably going to be better depending on the depreciation. So those are pretty much the main differences outside of the body. The iPhone 10's battery life is probably better, but the iPhone SE 2's software lifespan may actually end up being better on this device. So keep that in mind, but that's pretty much it. Now let's go into a speed comparison between both these devices. The iPhone 10 has that Apple 11 Bionic chip inside of it with 3 gigabytes of RAM. The iPhone SE 2 has that Apple A13 Bionic chip inside of it with 3 gigabytes of RAM as well. So let's go and see which one is the faster phone between both of these. Okay, now that we're back, as you guys saw before, all the apps were cleared out. So let's get into it. Phone calls 3, 2, 1. And kind of the same, but I think the iPhone SE 2 was a little bit faster. Let's go into their app stores 3, 2, 1. And I think the iPhone 10 still has a network issue. And as you can see, yep, because it's still telling us to vote. But regardless, let's just kind of let that one breathe and get into the next one. As always, I have a bunch of these third-party apps somewhere, which are right here. And on my iPhone SE 2, let's get started. Let's get Instagram, 3, 2, 1. And we were logged in here, logged out here. Let's get into the networks. One, Fruit Ninja, 3, 2, 1. And you can see, I guess, 2 different panels on both. It's not really that big of a deal. We are fully, played in on the iPhone SE 2. The iPhone 10 is still taking its time, and eventually we will get into that network panel. Let's do Facebook, 3, 2, 1. And I think the iPhone 10 actually was faster there. Let's get into Twitter, 3, 2, 1. And iPhone SE 2 again was the faster one there. Let's do Stack, 3, 2, 1. And you can see the iPhone SE 2 was faster there. The iPhone 10 a little bit behind. I guess it's taking its time again. I think there is a network issue with this device. Let's get into the next one, which would probably be Paper IO 2, which I do not have here. Let's get into Snake versus Blocks, 3, 2, 1. And I think the iPhone 10 was actually the faster one there. Getting to some gameplay, as I said before, I'm pretty sure the iPhone SE2 is going to be the faster one. They both kind of glitched up there. And I think the iPhone SE2 is going to be the faster one regardless. Dropbox, which I don't have, Snapchat 321. I think the iPhone 10 may have been slightly faster. Netflix 321. And again, another network issue. Hopping out of this one, let's get into Temple Run 2, 321. And as you can see, the SE2 is loaded. The iPhone 10 may run into an issue again, who knows? And of course we do. Regardless, the iPhone SE2 is still noticeably ahead than the iPhone 10. Getting into some gameplay, I don't think there's going to be, I don't even understand why you need a network connection to play this game. That makes absolutely no sense to me. As always, yeah, I think the gameplay is going to be roughly around the same. I actually do think it's smoother on the SE2, which is very weird. It's a pretty basic game. We can end it off with Quizlet 321. iPhone 10 actually faster there. Let's do thank you. 321. And as you can see, the iPhone SE2 I think was the faster one there as well. So that really pretty much covers up the speed comparison. I think, the iPhone SE2 is definitely the newer device, but even this device is almost a year old at this point. The iPhone 10 is coming up to, I think, like 4 years old this year, which is crazy to me. It does not even seem like that's even possible. I think RAM is going to be roughly around the same, but I think for sure the iPhone SE2, is the newer device. I'm sure it's faster, but I didn't really think it was that crazy of a difference. I think they were all almost neck and neck. There were some cases where the iPhone SE2 was faster, and I would classify the iPhone SE2 as being the more fast device more times than not, but the iPhone 10 is still a very fast device in my opinion. So in terms of that covers it up there. Let's go ahead and hit on the cameras. Now, like I mentioned before, dual camera set up on the iPhone 10, a 12 megapixel wide and 12 megapixel telephoto lens. The iPhone SE2 has that single 12 megapixel wide angle lens. Now, with a device like the iPhone 10's camera, I think I've said this for years, dude, this is a solid camera still. It's not like crazy insane, but it gets the job done. 4K 60 on the back, 1080p at 30 on the front, which are pretty much the same resolutions the iPhone SE2 can film in. And I think the camera is good. You have portrait mode. You do have that additional telephoto lens, which is something I really do like, but you do have some advancements on the iPhone SE2's camera that makes it a little bit better here and there. But the iPhone 10's camera is still great enough for the most part. I really do think anything you're going to do on the iPhone 10 is perfectly fine, but as I mentioned before, with a phone like an iPhone SE2, you're still getting a lot of the main benefits that you would have normally gotten on like an iPhone 10. So you're still getting that 4K 60 on the back, 1080p at 30 on the front, so same resolutions for the most part. But I will tell you, the A13 Bionic chip actually did add some pretty decent improvements, for the most part. Now, this is a pretty bad comparison. You're not going to be able to tell neck and neck, but there are definitely some improvements here and there. I think the iPhone SE2's camera is the better one. It lacks that telephoto lens, so it's only a single camera, which really does suck. But I think for the most part, the iPhone SE2's camera is still a very solid camera and is probably better than the iPhone 10's. But I do like having that additional telephoto lens that the iPhone 10 has. So to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you go and buy an iPhone 10 or should you go and buy an iPhone SE2 in 2021? Well, this is pretty much what I'll tell you. I think the iPhone 10, if I had to pick up one, I would probably pick up an iPhone 10. I think this device is the overall better looking phone. I like it a lot. I love the gesture-based design, and I really don't care about Touch ID, and I think the iPhone 10 is still plenty of fast for me, and the fact that this phone is still going to be getting support for several more years, at least like 2-3 more years, I would say the iPhone 10 would be the phone that I would pick up between these if I cared about the design and the things that I typically care about. But I think if you have to pick up a brand new phone, you don't want to buy used or certified refurbished even from Apple, I think the iPhone SE2 is the better way to go in that standpoint. You're getting a very good phone. My only downside is the battery life and maybe a little bit of the way it looks. Other than that, the iPhone SE2 is a very good device. The speed is better, has a newer chipset. It's going to be getting longer software support from something like an iPhone SE2 than on an iPhone 10. So that's a massive thing to keep in mind. I think for everyone else though, like if you're okay with buying a used phone or a phone that's a couple years older, the iPhone 10 is definitely the better way to go. I think the iPhone 10 is it's just a knock out of the park, whatever they call it. This device is like a timeless phone in so many ways. But if you're somebody who cares a lot about having the latest phone or maybe a newer chipset, then the iPhone SE2 would be the better way to go. But I think for all intents and purposes, these devices are more similar than not, in my opinion. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up. Like I mentioned before, if you want to pick up either one of these devices, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section as well. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.